As an entrepreneur, what would you do with $120 million? It seems like such a ridiculous amount of capital. I mean, surely it's enough to give your business at least a few years of financial runway while providing enough working capital to build a world-class product and get it in front of customers, right? Let's face it, there are thousands of huge startups out there that manage to succeed with much less. But Fast, a financial technology company launched in only 2019, well, it managed to defy the odds, and in more ways than one. They had a great concept that would likely serve millions of global users, backing by companies like Stripe, founders that served as executives at fast growth companies like Uber, and of course, well, $120 million freaking dollars from investors. And just over a year after getting their hands on the funds, they announced that they are closing their doors forever. Fast was definitely on the radar of investors as the next big thing in consumer finance software, but I bet you've never even heard of it. Because if it's one thing that they did fast, well, they blew through that money fast. And so fast that they shut down operations before you even had the opportunity to ever hear of them. And their failure wasn't because there was no market need. It's not because of an inexperienced team, and it's definitely not because they didn't have the capital to make it happen. So what was it that caused their demise? Well, in this video, we're gonna talk about how the company was created, why investors decided to burn up their capital investing in it, and why it all came crashing down in the end. And we're gonna get started right now. So this story starts off with Amazon. If you're an Amazon customer, you know just how convenient it is to put items in your cart and place an order with just one click, without entering your address or your credit card information over and over again. Instead, you set it up and then you can check out at any time with only one single click. For over 20 years, Amazon's patent made it impossible for any other financial software to include a one-click option. But then in 2017, this changed. Amazon's patent on their one-click technology expired, which opened up an opportunity for dozens of other companies to create their own one-click solution. In 2019, Fast launched its service and quickly positioned itself as the solution with the most significant potential. They had partners like BigCommerce and WooCommerce, allowing anyone using those platforms to offer a one-click option on their e-commerce sites. The WooCommerce partnership alone sought to make checkout easier for over 29% of the world's e-commerce sellers. And with deep penetration of the global market, Fast had exclusive partnerships that would immediately make all other competitors irrelevant. Let's back up a bit. Fast was founded by CEO Domm Holland and COO Alison Barr-Allen. Alison Barr-Allen graduated from Northwestern University with a BS in Communication Sciences and Disorders. Most notably in her career, she served as the head of global product operations for the money team at Uber. In that position, she helped scale Uber from 2,000 employees to more than 26,000 employees worldwide. She wasn't a stranger to the payment sector. At Uber, her team launched Uber's payment, risk, and compliance solutions globally, creating the system that enables consumers to make payments and drivers to receive on-demand payouts. She's also a limited partner at Operator Collective, a venture capital firm that invests in fast growth technology companies. Then there's Domm Holland, the company's CEO and co-founder. Dom was born and raised in Australia, where he founded a company called Tow. As an on-demand vehicle towing platform, the company processed more than $50 million in transactions. And as a result of this fast growth, Dom was awarded the top spot on Deloitte's Tech Fast 50 and recognized as the Brisbane Young Entrepreneur of the Year. And if you look up the bio for Domm Holland on Google, that's pretty much all you'll find. However, there's a lot more to the story, and I'll tell you why that's important in a little while. So while he was in Australia, Dom had a breakthrough insight. His wife had recently delivered their son, and her grandmother was staying with the family to help out. Dom walked into the kitchen and noticed his wife's grandmother struggling to purchase groceries online. Apparently, she forgot her password, so she couldn't log into the online grocer to place an order. That's the official story anyway. In real life, he probably just saw that Amazon's patent was expiring and realized the opportunity. But you know, branding is all about the story, and old people struggling with technology is a much cooler story than "I stole this from Amazon." That's my opinion, by the way. Maybe Granny really was struggling to get her prune juice and applesauce. Who really knows? Anyway, while still living in Brisbane in 2019, Dom coded the original version of Fast. In March of 2019, he put the prototype on Product Hunt, and it quickly became one of the most popular products on the platform, allowing him to raise a $2.5 million seed round from several investors who had previously invested in the buy now, pay later service Afterpay. That June, he moved to San Francisco like many businesses do, because San Francisco is where Silicon Valley is, and Silicon Valley is where startups grow from experiments to world-class businesses. At least that's what it looked like from the outside. But remember how I said that if you looked up Domm Holland, you only get a little glimpse into his life? Well, that's because his name is actually Dominic Holland. And when you look that up, well, his image goes from a squeaky clean entrepreneur to, well, someone who has maybe dirtbag tendencies. In fact, his former associates in Australia would say that he only moved to the US to scrub the demons of his past. Let's get away from Fast for a minute and talk about some of Dom's previous ventures, because these will play into Fast's ultimate demise. Let's take it back to 2010 when he had an idea to make a quick buck by deceiving one of Australia's most prominent airlines, Qantas Airways. To do this, he bought the domain cant.as for $20, knowing that he could impact the airline's business and force them to purchase the domain from him. To make matters even worse, he redirected all traffic from cant.as to Virgin Blue, one of Qantas's biggest competitors. So imagine that you're on Google looking for Qantas Airlines and cant.as pops up. Now you go to it and now you're on the Virgin Blue's website buying your tickets instead of Qantas Airlines. Illegal? No. But a little unethical? Probably. Dom claimed that he sold the domain for $1.3 million, although he never disclosed the buyer. However, records now show that the domain is registered to Qantas Airways Limited, although it's currently inactive. He wasn't necessarily wrong for making this move, but it would prove that he's somebody who would almost do anything to make a quick buck, even if it meant taking a hit on his reputation. So after this, he founded tow.com.au in 2014, which was hailed as the Uber of towing. Ultimately, it worked a lot like Uber, using subcontractors for the service. Basically, a request would come in, and the app would send it to one of his towing partners, who would then perform the necessary services. And Tow would send the contractor the payment minus its fee. Tow's biggest contract was with the Queensland Police, which will often request towing for up to 100 vehicles per day. If someone was illegally parked, the police would send in a request and a tow contractor would perform the service. But the issue was, many of these cars that were towed were pretty much worthless, so owners would never show up to reclaim their vehicles, leaving a massive unpaid bill to the tow companies. Holland blamed the government, and the government blamed Holland. But while they were blaming each other, none of the tow companies were getting paid. So Dom sued the government, and while fighting the case with possibly millions of dollars in owed payments, the company reached the point of almost going bankrupt. Digging into his big bag of tricks, Dom said publicly that he would sell all the personal data that the platform had collected, like its users' driver's license information and bank account numbers, which would be worth up to $80 each on the black market. Again, maybe not illegal, although maybe it is, but definitely unethical. The government took it to court, and Australia's Supreme Court demanded that he turn over all the data or be arrested. The government settled the legal dispute for less than $1 million in 2019, and Dominic started liquidating the company. According to reports, he owed about $4.1 million to the app's towing partners. Fortunately, he promised them that he would pay them. And then he disappeared to Silicon Valley, leaving them all high and dry. And it wasn't just the subcontractors that were impacted. Tow's staff received a text message in June of 2019 telling them that they were all terminated, and the tow.com.au website was taken offline that same day. Then in March of 2020, the name Domm Holland was first introduced to the media, likely in an attempt to shake off his reputation and make it harder for people to find out about the outcomes of his previous ventures. But full disclosure, early investors were fully aware of just how Tow collapsed, but many thought that he deserved a second chance, thinking that the situation probably made him a better CEO. You know, the whole thing about what doesn't kill you makes you stronger? Well, I doubt that those towing partners would agree, but hey, they didn't have $120 million. Eric Ries, the creator of the Lean Startup and one of Silicon Valley's most well-known entrepreneurs, would say, Silicon Valley has long been the home of second and even third chances, but it's really important to hold high standards of honesty and integrity. People tend to respond to the next big thing without seeing why previous big things failed. And that brings us to Fast, which was also developed with a little bit of scandal, because that prototype that we talked about that he built, Well, it wasn't developed by Australian or American developers. Instead, he hired Nigerian developers, paying them as little as $5 an hour to deliver extremely complex technical work. Well, not just $5 an hour. I guess he also sent them a bunch of swag like t-shirts and mugs and shit, because I guess having a cool t-shirt makes all the difference in the world when your family is struggling to afford a bowl of rice. Maybe a bit of equity would have sufficed, but nope, the developers didn't get that either. And thinking back on the history of Domm, can you guess what happened next? Well, he used the prototype to demo the software to venture capitalists, and once he got funding, he fired them all and said that he built it himself. And when I say fired them, I don't mean that he brought them all into an office and let them go peacefully, because obviously that's not his style. One of these Nigerian engineers said that one day he tried to log into the Slack workspace for Fast and his credentials no longer worked. He said, "We just got kicked out with no notice. Slack stopped working, Domm stopped replying. It was really weird." Another Nigerian engineer said he fired everyone from Nigeria. He completely erased us, even though we built the first version of the app he was demoing to VCs. A lot of people were really pained. It's like we never existed, but we didn't want to speak up because we didn't want to develop a bad name in Silicon Valley. Illegal? No. But unethical? Yeah, probably. But hey, I guess some people get to the top by climbing on the backs of others. And Fast definitely seemed like it was heading to the top. So here he is in Silicon Valley with a fresh reputation and an updated name, Domm. The co-founder of Afterpay, Nick Moner, introduced him to Brian Sugar, the founder of Pop Sugar, who then introduced him to decision makers at Stripe. And Stripe made a deal, investing $20 million into Fast Series A, adding to the $2.5 million they raised during their seed funding round. With almost $23 million in their bank accounts, they grew the organization from only 2 employees to more than 80 and experienced an accelerated growth over the next 12 months. In 2021, TechCrunch reported that Fast's gross merchandise volume had more than tripled each month. And when they went out to get more funding, with all this new traction, they were able to raise an additional $102 million. In this round, Stripe joined forces with VC firm Addition to provide the necessary capital. After this raise, it was reported that Fast was valued at $580 million. But then it all started falling apart. Fast increased its staff to 400 employees. And paying 400 employees is expensive, especially when US labor laws prevent you from ripping them off the way you could with offshore developers. Furthermore, the company did a humongous marketing push, but the advertising budget far outweighed the return. Former employees of Fast told NPR that Domm was pouring a ton of money into expensive deals to create marketing buzz, like partnering with sports teams. But unfortunately, these deals rarely paid off. Startup investor Colin Kenner told the Sydney Morning Herald, "There's an expression, build a wave and then find a way to put water under it." I think a lot of companies do an excellent job of building a wave, and Fast has done that extremely well. But my concern with companies that overstate their business is that there's little substance to it. In other words, it was like a very average gift wrapped in the prettiest wrapping paper with a humongous bow on top of it. In fact, while the company raised over $120 million from investors, it only managed to generate around $600,000 in revenue, only a small fraction of what investors really expected. A high-ranking employee would come out to say, with Fast, it was like, how quickly can we set money on fire? And after looking at the financials, investors were starting to worry and wonder if Domm could actually lead the company to success. Then publications like NPR started digging into the issues that he had in Australia, and that clean image that he tried to build in Silicon Valley started to muddy up once again. But Fast wasn't too worried about it. I mean, sure, they were burning $10 million a month, but they could just turn around and get more investment, right? Well, it turns out that VCs weren't interested this time around. In 2022, VCs were already investing less, and with the cloud of doubt hanging over the company after their meager sales growth, Fast ran out of money. And then he turned to social media with a final tweet that said, "After making great strides on our mission of making buying and selling frictionless for everyone, we have made the difficult decision to close our doors." As always, there's a takeaway for startup founders here. First, you have to treat people with respect, from the biggest client you have to the person who sweeps the floor at your office. Because when it comes to startups, the human element is everything. Often, investors don't invest just because they believe in the product, they invest because they believe in you and your team. Once you ruin your reputation, you also ruin your ability to reach out for a lifeline when your startup is sinking. The second takeaway is invest in your business, and not the things that make it look cool, but the things that actually make it grow. Having your name aligned with your local sports team is probably a waste of money. Putting a 30-foot slide in the middle of your office is just stupid. Hiring for the hell of it is a bad idea. If investors put money in your hand, it's because they're looking for a return on their investment. And it's your job to make sure that you do everything in your power to make sure that that's what happens. Finally, product market fit is everything. Your value proposition has to be so strong that you don't need outlandish advertising tactics to get your audience to see the benefit of your product. And the good news is that product market fit isn't extremely hard to achieve. In fact, we have an awesome video right here that will tell you exactly how to achieve it in only 6 steps. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button down below so that you don't miss any of our updates. We drop new videos every week to help you launch and grow your startup. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care and keep creating amazing shit.